Hey folks, welcome to Sunken Media. This is the first in a multi-part series that I am very excited to explore. These are horror movie death scenes that essentially I saw when I was a young horror fan. And they kind of embedded themselves in my psyche, and I can remember each of these giving me nightmares. And for the most part, even now much older, I still get goosebumps when I watch these scenes. This first one, though, I'm gonna get some heat for, I know it. Welcome to the very first of the kills that got me into horror.
Ow!
Alright, so a few things to note kind of right off the bat. I saw these when I was a child, and I was frankly a complete wuss. These are all going to be kind of tame. They're not like super gore fests for the most part. I was absolutely a very scaredy cat kid. And I think a big part of what got me into horror, and what I still love about horror, part of me as a kid felt somehow stronger after being so genuinely frightened by these scenes and then coming to kind of embrace them and adore them. You know, as a scared little kid, it made me less scared of the world in general.
I'm a big kid now.
Okay, second thing to note, these movies are from my childhood, so they're obviously going to be from a certain era.
You're old, you sigh, get over it.
The late 80s was when I was kind of hitting my stride and just coming into horror as a viewer. Your list obviously is going to be skewed towards probably whenever you were somewhere in that 5 to 12-year-old period. I don't know, let me know when you got into horror, and let me know what movies kind of got you there. Leave your lists in the comments. So third and last thing, of course, this is completely subjective, and it's very personal. I'm not even claiming that these are the scariest horror kills of all time. They are. And if you think these are utter rubbish, that is totally fair.
No way. Wrong. It's fiction.
All right, so now to the first of my list. Again, this is the very first kill that terrified me, and it's probably my most controversial pick. The very first kill that got me into horror, and by many accounts, one of the worst movies ever made, but I firmly maintain that this scene is a banger. Do the kids still say banger? Banger. Banger. I'm talking about the fourth and final film of the Jaws franchise, Jaws: The Revenge. A movie that Roger Ebert called, quote, not simply a bad movie, but a stupid and incompetent one, end quote. But I'm not here to badmouth this movie for two reasons. First, there are a shit ton of videos out there already covering that topic. Does the shark roar like a lion? Yes. Does the plot of the movie revolve around a shark having some sort of psychic ability? Kinda, yeah. Is it a bad movie? Maybe. But I won't talk about how bad it is for another reason. Because I love this movie, and I will always love this movie, and this is the very first horror movie that I could call my favorite. Why? I don't know. I can't explain it really either. Criteria for loving things is different when you're a kid. So the first time I actually encountered it, my grandma took my brother and I to go see some animated movie, the holiday season of 1986 or so, and we stumbled onto a giant poster, this poster, Rawr. And I just remember being completely entranced by that image and wondering what happened to the woman, what happened to the shark, what was the story behind what was going on there, why was she there by herself. I was absolutely captivated, and I remember my grandma having to kind of peel me away from that poster. I was scared by that poster alone. This one, original VHS. Yeah, baby. Okay, anyway. So like the movie came out and it was an infamous bomb and critics hated it. And it actually killed the entire Jaws franchise. But that is not the kill we are here to talk about today. As a kid, I didn't care about any of that. I was just thinking about having fun in the sun, maybe taking a nice banana boat ride. The very, very, very first kill that got me into horror was the banana boat scene from Jaws: The Revenge. Months after I was terrified by the poster, my parents ended up renting it, and my brother was, of course, brave enough to watch it with them, but I stayed in my bedroom. I was probably about 7 at the time. And I wanted to go out for a snack in the kitchen. The movie sounded tame at that point. All of a sudden, that music starts. Dun-dun. And then people started screaming. Women started screaming. And I remember I turned my eyes to the screen. Once I started watching this awful thing that was about to happen, I had to finish it. I had to know how it was going to end. So let's kind of break it down shot by shot about why I think this is still such an effective scene, and I think maybe more interestingly, like why it was so terrifying to me as a child and why it continues to stick with me, even if the movie is perhaps arguably not great.
No way. You're wrong. It's an urban legend that never happened.
Let's watch it now. And the scene starts with a ceremony at the beach. The son's wife is a welder/artist.
I've always wanted to make love to an angry welder.
And she is ready to unveil her latest piece. And the little girl, Thea, is really bored with all the speeches that are going on and asks her mother if she can go on a banana boat ride with her friend. Her grandmother is not so certain. So I think there are really good shots of kind of building the tension as people slowly start to notice. Of course, it's Grandma Brody who notices at first. And of course you see Finn. And then Thea's mom. And just like a lot of good reaction shots driving on home the horror of it. And then, I don't know, it could be considered somewhat cheap, but I think the editing of this, the sort of quick shots between the shark and the people on the banana boat, and like I think this really effective shot of the little girl's shoe being shown, you know, he goes to bite and how close her leg was to being the one that he got. This shot where like you just get a sense of the sheer size of the thing. There was no way that woman was fighting that off. And then sort of the double whammy of this shot of like the slowly deflating banana boat with the woman just still like wriggling and writhing for her life back there. I as a child, it was just chilling, like how close you are to safety and yet how far you are. And these two shots always scared me because there was the sense that the boat is clearly like deflating and there was a very limited amount of time before they were all going to be in the water with that shark. And the little girl's the one that's like right next to the bloody deflating hole. Just, it was so, viscerally, chilling and added this sense of like urgency to the whole thing. I'm getting chills now just thinking about it. I can always distinctly remember in an almost tactile sense that shot for some reason, that he was biting down so hard and so fast that it was causing this water pressure spray back. And I'm sure it's just because of the mechanical shark, but it added such a sense of ferocity and size to the creature. And it was the kind of thing that doesn't always translate in CGI. You needed those practical effects. And funny enough, that single shot may be the one that sticks most in my head, or has for all of my life. And then him like dragging her somewhat lifeless underwater while that creepy sound plays. And then, of course, they manage to make it back before the boat entirely deflates. And this is, you know, the big catalyst scene. This sets off the climax, and Grandma is now going to be the final girl. She's going to slay him herself. Go, Grandma. So, some of the things that kind of made this so chilling, I think in general, but especially as a kid, like its general setting is it's anti-horror. It is sunny, it is clear water, it is family being nearby.
Be careful. I will.
It's huge groups of people. It's the opposite of isolated, dark, murky, traditional horror, like all the stuff that is dangerous in one's subconscious or mind. And I don't know, maybe it lulls you into a safe sense, but it certainly kind of perverts all that stuff that was so innocuous, so safe. And that kind of leads to, I think, the second thing that I thought was so chilling as a kid was just the idea that proximity to family was not safe. And I grew up in the 80s, stranger danger and avoiding the white van and all that kind of stuff was very much a thing. And staying within earshot and eyesight of mom and dad was always key. And there was the assumption that if they could see or hear you, that you weren't in any real danger. There was this kind of false sense of security, I guess, that this sort of pointed out. And I think moreover in this particular scene, like a crowd of people being around you still might not be of any help to you. That was chilling as a kid to me. Sort of wrapped into all that and kind of by extension was just the inability of adults. That creature was so big and so powerful, and the idea that there are some situations that adults are not going to be able to help you with. It really popped a bubble for me as a kid, I guess. But it's a harsh reality that I suppose needed to be understood. And that was a safe space to do that in. Safe space of a shark movie. And of course, there's the whole subconscious of underwater and just not knowing really what's down there in alien worlds, something coming up from underneath and just wrecking your day. And of course, something that can definitely add extra chills for a lot of people is the child in peril. I must admit, not being a parent, I'm not typically affected by the child in peril thing, but when you are a child, it's a little alarming to kind of realize that even you are able to be killed. And that might be the first time that I kind of really saw that portrayed in something, actually. So that scene would, of course, give me nightmares. It's the first movie that I can remember giving me nightmares. And anytime I got near a pool, a lake, a Dixie cup full of water, they still make Dixie cups? I thought about this. I thought about that shark, but I eventually had to watch the rest of the movie. I had to know what happened to the little girl. Was the woman really dead? Did the shark ever get destroyed, or was it still out there hunting? And kind of this insane curiosity ended up being, I think, my original foray into my very first horror film. My brother and I ended up renting those movies endlessly until we finally taped them off of television. And then we watched those VHS tapes edited for TV with commercials until they snapped. My mom could never help but stop and watch Jaws anytime it came on TV. But as much as the family loved the whole franchise, this one was my favorite. The first horror movie that I fell in love with. I will always love Jaws: The Revenge. I know, you probably don't agree, but that was it. That was the very first kill that got me into horror. I was hoping some of you out there might be able to help me with something that I can't seem to find anywhere online. My brother and I definitely watched and taped Jaws 2 and 3 off of this week-long programming that was either on TNT or TBS, like somewhere around 1990. I want to say it was late summer usually, and every year they would play 5 monster movies, like one every night of the week. And it was always like 5 creature features. There was usually a Jaws, and I remember all of these movies being part of that. It wasn't Monster Vision, and it didn't have a host. If anybody has any idea what I'm talking about, please let me know. I feel like it was marketed with some clever, like, I don't know, Wild Things Week, Monsters of Fur, I don't know. Monster something. We were so excited for that week as kids. Anyway, if you have any idea, let me know in the comments. All right, so I will catch you next time on the kills that got me into horror. I don't think any of my other picks are anywhere near as surprising, silly, controversial as this, but the rest of the list is on the way. I'll catch you folks on the next Sunken Media. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you.